Hi, I'm Wes Kussmaul. I'm the CIO, CEO, and founder of the Authenticity Institute. CIO means Chief Instigation Officer. We've noted that security problems are the effect of a bigger problem. That problem is inauthenticity. The other side of that coin is that if you solve inauthenticity, you solve lots of other problems. Security is just one of them. Before I go further, I want to ask you something. Actually, I want to ask you to pretend something. Just play a role. In another video, we mentioned a cowboy who instructed an office building receptionist to identify the bad guys coming into the lobby and identify the intentions of everyone coming in. Imagine that you're the receptionist in that downtown office building. I'm the owner of the building. I have those instructions for you. Please do this. Please determine the intentions of everyone who enters the building and also determine whether they are good or bad people. Is that a reasonable request? Or is it a preposterously unreasonable request? If you think that's an unreasonable request, and if you know how a building works, then you know more about something than the information security experts do. What is that something that you know more about than the information security experts know about? The thing that you know more about than the information security experts is information security. Now, I know from experience that you likely find that hard to believe, but it happens to be true. Please take a moment to think about it. The current practice of information security is mostly about determining the intentions and character of the sender of a stream of bits. Slight problem with that. In most cases, it's impossible. When it is possible, it's because the intruder lacks skills or funding. In other words, information security products tend to determine the least threatening attacks, leaving your computer and your bank's computer vulnerable to attack. The attackers used to be malicious pranksters and vandals. Now the attackers are well-funded thieves. Let's face it, we're facing a new form of organized crime. Unlike previous territorial organized crime families, this one is purely global. In fact, its members typically strike from across national borders. Of course, imagine being able to rob a bank in Toronto while sitting in your home in Northern Europe. What better way to evade arrest and prosecution than to pull off a bank heist that wipes out all the cash of some small business in Chicago from the comfort of the perpetrator's home in Estonia? The world's jurisdictional patchwork is a perfect gift to net-based organized crime. The information security establishment's response to the problem is as mindless as the attackers are smart. That renders mainstream information security efforts ineffective or even useless. Is this counterintuitive? Then ask your common sense about how you would protect occupants of your office building. You'd probably start with identity, right? You wouldn't ask that receptionist to guess at the intentions of visitors or character of visitors. You'd ask him or her to ask for ID, a business card perhaps, or a driver's license. If the office deals with matters calling for more security, you'd probably have them issue a badge based upon that ID. It's not about intentions or character, it's about accountability. It's about having a way to associate events with a person. That raises the level of authenticity. Welcome to the Authenticity Institute. Our motto is, identity is the foundation of security. Now, there are lots of companies that sell identity management software and services, and every time I talk to companies about identity, they assume I'm talking about identity management. I often cite the title of one of our white papers, Have Identities Before You Manage Them. You've probably seen the phenomenon. Members of a profession can get so stuck in their assumptions that they overlook things that are obvious to outsiders who don't know about the assumptions. That's exactly where we are with information security. Perhaps you still find it hard to believe that you know more about information security than an information security expert. Well, sometimes there's a difference between what an expert knows to be true and the conventional wisdom of his or her profession. But don't take my word for it. In another video, we showed this quote from Capel Reina, and this one from Tyre El Gamal. If hundreds of billions of dollars, conceivably $1 trillion, has been spent on information security, then we must have information security, right? But we do not. There is no meaningful information security. You're probably familiar with the definition of insanity attributed to Albert Einstein, doing the same thing over and over again while expecting a different result. Well, that in turn practically defines the practice of information security. It's not working. Let's do it some more. To understand that gap, let's delve a little into the psychology of information security. Top-level decision makers tend not to be information technology experts, let alone information security experts. The subject is rather uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable because not only is the top decision maker responsible for everything that goes on in the organization, including the protection of information assets, but to make it scarier, the subject is about people with evil intentions toward that which the top decision maker must protect. So the subject of information security is not just uncomfortable, it inspires fear. Fear of bad guys, guys who are motivated by evil. Every purchase decision has an emotional component that a skillful marketer knows how to touch, and the emotional component of the information security purchase decision is clearly fear. Fear of anonymous bad guys. What could be worse? But the information security marketers have indeed found something worse. They touch this newer pain point with a category of products called DLP, Data Loss Prevention. Pretty much, data loss prevention is a code word for theft of proprietary information by your own people. Yes, when it comes to scary things, treachery by trusted team members trumps theft by anonymous outsiders. That's about as scary can be, right? You can't get scarier than that, right? Wrong. There's something even scarier than treachery. What could that be, you ask? As a manager, how could anything be more frightening, more disturbing than the thought of your own people deliberately betraying the trust you put in them? At this point, we must warn you that what follows includes content of a disturbing nature that may not be suitable for all audiences. So please, mature audiences only, okay? Well, here it is. Scarier even than treachery is this. There's a bad guy inside of each of us. Yikes. Now, I don't want to get all theological on you, but this is fundamental to the difference between razor wire security and authenticity. Authenticity says we are all capable of more bad things if we believe there's no accountability than if we think we might be held accountable for our actions. Accountability and authenticity are simply tools to help us keep the bad guy in all of us, that little psychopath on our shoulder, from getting the upper hand. The bad guy in each of us tempts us to do things we wouldn't do if there were accountability. But the starting point for some people is lower than others. Some start out as idle misanthropes and are encouraged by the absence of accountability to become active psychopaths. They're not about to get themselves reliable identities, so we can track them, of course, but that's not the point. The point is that you and your friends will be indoors while they're out on the street wondering where all their victims went. Much of the telephone century, the 20th century, was about what psychopaths do when they come to power in the presence of new communication tools and in the absence of accountability. Shall we continue that experiment into the 21st century, giving them even more powerful new tools to cover their tracks even more effectively? Understand the difference between razor wire and accountability, and you can provide a very valuable service to your employer or to your community, and to your family and to yourself. Get acquainted with the authenticity economy in its formative stages. Get a second home in the village of East Osmio today. If you'd rather wait, let me ask you, has inauthenticity written the next chapter in the history of the world? Have we decided that we're tired of thinking about all this, that we may as well hand over our geese and pigs and sons and daughters and personal freedom and privacy to various gangs of thugs that intrude on our information homes because we stood by and let them? Will we let the smartest leader of the toughest gang of thugs, whoever that might be, take over the world's information and communication infrastructure? Or will we decide that the next chapter in the history of the world will tell how mankind regained authenticity, accountability, and privacy? In a very real sense, it's up to you. The gangs of thugs are out there, getting more skilled and powerful every day, acting with a kind of borderless global impunity that has never been available to gangs of thugs in the past. Whether they operate out of Wall Street or Estonia, Silicon Valley or Hollywood, whether they overtly steal your money or fraudulently trick you into giving up your privacy by manipulating your perceptions, starting now, they only get away with it if you let them. Accountability starts with you. Why not get yourself a free provisional identity certificate right now? Just click below. Then discover all the things you can do with it.